Something shifts after 50. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not a decision you make consciously. It's more like a quiet internal rearrangement, a slow, steady loosening of something that has been tight for decades. You stop rehearsing conversations before you have them. You stop replaying them after. You wear what you want to wear. You say no without writing a 3-paragraph explanation. You disagree out loud in rooms where you used to stay silent. And the strangest part? You don't feel reckless. You feel free. But here's what most people never ask. Why? Why does this happen after 50 and not before? Is it wisdom? Is it exhaustion? Is it something happening in the brain itself? The answer, it turns out, is all three. And the psychology behind it is more fascinating than most people realize. To understand what changes after 50, you first have to understand what was there before. From the moment we are born, the human brain is wired for social approval. This is not vanity. This is survival. For most of human history, being rejected by your group meant death. Exile, isolation, abandonment, these were not social inconveniences. They were existential threats. So the brain built an approval system, a finely tuned, constantly running background process that monitors how we are perceived, adjusts our behavior accordingly, and releases a small hit of dopamine when we get it right, when we are liked, included, validated. Psychologists call this the sociometer, a real-time internal gauge of social standing. And for most of our lives, especially in our 20s, 30s, and 40s, that sociometer is running at full volume. We dress for other people. We choose careers partly for other people. We stay quiet in meetings. We laugh at jokes we don't find funny. We shrink ourselves into shapes that fit the rooms we are in. And we barely notice we're doing it because it is so automatic, so deeply wired, so completely normal that it feels like just being a person. Here is where the neuroscience becomes genuinely fascinating. Research from UCLA and the Max Planck Institute has shown that as we age, particularly after the age of 50, activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, begins to decrease in response to social and emotional stressors. The amygdala is what fires when you feel embarrassed. When you say something in a meeting and immediately scan the room for reactions. When you post something and refresh for responses. When you care deeply, viscerally, what someone thinks of you. After 50, that firing becomes quieter. Not because the brain is declining, but because it is maturing. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for perspective, long-term thinking, and emotional regulation, has had 5 decades to build its circuitry. And one of the things it learns, slowly and through experience, is proportion. It learns that most opinions are temporary, that most judgments say more about the judge than the judged, that the things we were most afraid people would think of us were things most people were never thinking about in the first place. This is not cynicism. This is clarity, hard-earned, experience-built, neurologically grounded clarity. There is another psychological force at work after 50, and it is one that most people find uncomfortable to name. Mortality, not in a morbid sense, but in the very precise psychological sense that researcher Laura Carstensen at Stanford University spent decades studying. Her theory, socio-emotional selectivity theory, proposes something elegant and profound. When we perceive time as unlimited, as we do in our 20s, we invest in things that might pay off eventually. We network. We perform. We build reputation. We tolerate relationships that don't nourish us because they might be useful. We spend enormous energy managing impressions. But when time begins to feel finite, as it does after 50, not dramatically but unmistakably, the brain shifts its investment strategy. It stops optimizing for the future and starts optimizing for now, for depth over breadth, for meaning over status, for the conversation that actually matters over the one that looks good. Carstenson's research showed that older adults consistently report higher emotional satisfaction, more stable moods, and deeper relationships than younger adults, precisely because they have stopped spending energy on things that don't return it. The shorter future is not a loss, it is a filter, a remarkably efficient one. Here is something nobody tells you about the decades before 50. They are exhausting, not the work, not the responsibilities, but the performance. The constant, low-level, never quite conscious performance of being who you think you need to be for the people watching. Psychologist Irving Goffman called this impression management, the ongoing effort we all put into controlling how we are perceived. And like any sustained effort, it costs energy, cognitive energy, emotional energy. The kind of energy that by the time you reach 50, you have spent enough of to finally ask whether it was ever worth it. And for most people, the honest answer is, not as much as I thought. Because the promotion you dressed for didn't make you happy the way you expected. Because the approval you spent years chasing felt good for a day and then required chasing again. Because the version of yourself you performed for others was exhausting to maintain and never quite felt like you. After 50, many people simply run out of capacity for the performance. And what's left, what emerges when the performance falls away, is surprisingly comfortable. It turns out the self underneath the performance was always there, just waiting for permission to exist without an audience. I want to be clear about something before we close. Stopping caring what others think is not the same as stopping caring about others. The people who make this shift after 50 are not becoming cold. They are not becoming selfish. They are not retreating from the world. They are redirecting the energy that used to go into managing perception toward the things that actually deserve it. Real relationships, real work, real presence in the moments that are actually happening rather than the ones being performed for an imaginary audience. The most alive people I have ever encountered were not the ones still running the approval loop. They were the ones who had quietly, gracefully, finally let it go. Not because they stopped caring, because they finally figured out what was actually worth caring about. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needed to hear it today.